Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Gaura Bhimanande Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Satta Sri Samad His Divine Grace Shirabhai Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki ISKCON Vibhiti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki Harinam Sankirtan ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Dainitai Gaura Premanande all glories to be assembled devotees, all glories to be assembled devotees, all glories to be assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurundilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This Bhagavatam, known as the Grantara, as the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasalam pangom langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Janataranam yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Janataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to the morning Bhagavatam class. No need to translate, right? Anyways, whoever is in charge, kindly arrange that class is translated for those who cannot understand English. I will carry on in English. So we are looking at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, entitled Purusha Shukta Confirmed, text number 32, huh? Yes. Srijami Tan Niyukto Aham Haro Harati Tad Vashaha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Tri Shakti Drik Srijami Tan Niyukto Ham Haro Harati Tad Vashaha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Tri Shakti Drik Srijami Tan Niyukto Ham Haro Harati Tad Vashaha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Tri Shakti Drik Srijami Tan Niyukto Ham Haro Harati Tad Vashaha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Trishakti Drik.
Arohati Taravashaha. Vapati Tri Shakti Drik.
Srijami, do create, tat, by his, niyuktaha, appointment, aham, I, haraha, Lord Shiva, harati, destroys, tatvashaha, under his subordination, Vishwam, the whole universe, Purusha, the personality of Godhead, Rupena, by his eternal form, Paripati, maintains, Trishakti Drik, the controller of three energies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. By his will I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself in his eternal form as the personality of Godhead maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. Kindly repeat after me. By his will, I create. Lord Shiva destroys. And he himself, in his eternal form, as the personality of Godhead, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. Purport. The conception of one without a second is clearly confirmed here. The one is Lord Vasudeva, and only by his different energies and expansions are different manifestations, both in the material and in the spiritual worlds, maintained. In the material world also, Lord Vasudeva is everything, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Everything is Vasudev only. In the Vedic hymns also, the same Vasudeva is held to be supreme. It is said in the Vedas, Vasudevat paro brahman nachanyo arto stitatvataha. In fact, there is no greater truth than Vasudeva. And Lord Krishna affirms the same truth in the Bhagavad Gita 7:7, Mata Parataram Nanyat. There is nothing above me, Lord Krishna. So the conception of oneness, as overly stressed by the impersonalists, is also accepted by the personalist devotee of the Lord. The difference is that the impersonalist denies personality in the ultimate issue, whereas the devotee gives more importance to the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam explains this truth in the verse under discussion. Lord Vasudeva is one without a second. But because he is all-powerful, he can expand himself as well as display his omnipotencies. The Lord is described here as omnipotent by three energies, Tri Shakti Drik. So primarily, his three energies are internal, marginal, and external. This external energy is also displayed in the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Similarly, the internal potency is also displayed in three spiritual modes, Samvit, Sandhini, and Ladini. The marginal potency, or the living entities, is also spiritual, Prakritim Vidhi Me Param. But the living entities are never equal to the Lord. The Lord is Nirasta Samya Atishaya. In other words, no one is greater than or equal to the Supreme Lord. So the living entities, including even such great personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are all subordinate to the Lord. In the material world also, in his eternal form of Vishnu, he maintains and controls all the affairs of the demigods, including Brahma and Shiva. Translation again. By his will, I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself, in his eternal form, as the personality of Godhead, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. This is Lord Brahma who is speaking. And in the purport, there are many explanations in terms of, we could say, tattva. Tattva is something very important. Tattva has to do with what is truth, what is absolute truth, what is eternal truth. So we are receiving actually this knowledge from Lord Brahma through Guru Parampara, and it is Srila Vyasadeva who has compiled all of the Vedic literatures so that we can more easily understand Tattva. Without proper understanding of Tattva, which is intimately connected with Dharma, we cannot know things or understand things properly. Here it mentions about the different energies. This is explained actually by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Dasamula Tattva. Actually, our acharyas especially focus, and we as a sampradaya focus on Tattva. Beginning from, of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who revealed subject matters which up until his time practically were hidden. And personalities, well, all of the 6 Goswamis, in particular Srila Jiva Goswami, very elaborately discussed about Tattva. This was again taken up by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Unless one clearly understands about Tattva, one will not be able to know or understand that Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Especially here in India, it is more difficult to grasp Tattva because there are so many explanations about the subject matter of Godhead. So one of our foremost spiritual teachers, Srila Narada Muni, he travels both within the material world as well as the spiritual world to actually sing the glories of the Lord and to introduce the subject matter of Tattva, in particular of Sanatana Dharma. So, Dharma is meant to be, as Narada Muni explains, Smritam Chat Vidam Rajam Yena Chatma Prasidati. When Narada Muni is meeting with Yudhishthira Maharaj, this is nicely explained in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, on the request of Yudhishthira Maharaj, he is elaborating and explaining the subject matter of Dharma. In particular, he is speaking about the subject matter of Varnashrama Dharma. We cannot properly understand how to overcome and how to deal with the modes of material nature. All of us who are in the material world, we are here in the material world due to our 2 reasons were mentioned earlier in this chapter. One is our attachment to family life, and the other is not being able to follow the principles of celibacy. They're both interconnected. So it is a very great science, and the whole subject matter of Dharma, of Sanatana Dharma, is such a great science that we are meant to actually devote our entire life to understanding and putting into practice these principles of Dharma. So Narada Muni, he gives one very important instruction in his discussion with Yudhishthira Maharaj on the subject matter of dharma. Dharma mulam hi bhagavan sarva vedamayo harihi smritam chat vidam rajan yena satma prasidati. In order to meet and fulfill all of our needs and necessities of life, both material and spiritual. We have this material body, we are here in the material world, we have some basic necessities. Just like after the class, everyone will go for breakfast. That's a material necessity. Everyone has had to take rest so that they can be alert in the Bhagavatam class. Sleeping is also a material necessity. We have different material necessities, but in the Shastra is there to actually help us understand how we are meant to best meet or address these different material necessities. We have material necessities, we have spiritual necessity also. We are presently a combination of these two energies. Here there is mention about the different, that's part of tattva also. One of the tattvas described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Dasamula tattva is called Shaktiman. Shaktiman Krishna, he is Shaktiman. Krishna is the source of all energies. And they were described as being external, material energy, internal, the spiritual world, and marginal, we, the living entities. So unless we learn how to deal with these two energies especially, we are the marginal energy. Unless we learn how to deal with the spiritual as well as the external energy of the Lord, we will not be able to adjust properly. We will not ultimately be able to attain our ultimate goal and destination, which is, of course, self-realization. We are reminded again and again, actually, in Shastra, that this human form of life, its primary goal and objective is to attain self-realization, to become qualified to go back to the spiritual world. That is meant to be our main and primary focus. That's why in the Vedic culture, so-called material advancement is not, as we understand it today, is not encouraged. Srila Prabhupada used to explain how the more we become entangled with modern day technology, which is simply creating more and more, trying to create, actually not succeeding, trying to create more and more material facilities for us. When that focus is primarily the main focus for the living entity, then the actual opposite takes place. And our natural inclination and our attraction for spiritual life becomes less and less. The more we become involved in family life, the more we become attached to family life, the more we become attached to different types of material so-called well-being, then we lose our ability to actually take up the spiritual life. So, since the last few hundred years, actually, within modern day society, we have, as we can see, the leaders in society have given overemphasis to so-called material development at the cost of actually losing practically activities which are meant to elevate us spiritually. And this is due, of course, to a lack of understanding of the principles of dharma. So Narada Muni, in this text I was mentioning, which is the introduction to his discussion with Yudhishthira Maharaj, is explaining how everything that we do must be authorized and recommended by Shastra. That is called prescribed duties. Prescribed Vedic duties. We all have duties, especially those who are householders. Today's Saturday. Most people probably don't work on Saturday, but most householders every day have to go to work. But we should try to understand that, what is the work that most people are doing nowadays, including, unfortunately, our own devotees. How is it in line with the prescribed duties recommended in the Shastra? We have these two duties or responsibilities. Spiritual activities, just like now we are here in this very beautiful temple, hearing Bhagavatam class. So that is a spiritual activity. But simultaneously, again, especially those who are householders, they have all kinds of material duties. So we need to understand, all of us as devotees, regardless of which ashram we are in, or which varna. We don't talk so much about varna. Most of us don't really know so much about varna. To a large extent, that's because we are, many of us, very closely connected with temple life. But when we live as we are meant to, in what is recommended in the Shastra, why do we hear Shastra? Why do we read Shastra? Is to actually try to understand what is meant to be the normal way, or the norm, how society is meant to be arranged, what kind of activity we are meant to take up, what kind of education we are meant to receive. And if we analyze closely, and we should, that's what Narada Muni is telling, Smritam chat vidam rajan. Smriti means to remember, to try to understand. As devotees, that is one of our primary duties, to try and understand, okay, is the way that I'm living in accordance with Shastra? Is my job and my occupation in accordance with Shastra? Of course, one may say, well, we can dovetail everything in Krishna service. To some extent, that is true. At the same time, we should know that there are activities which are more favorable for awakening our Krishna consciousness. And it's only quite recently I was reading from the, 9th chapter in the first canto, the passing away of Grandfather Bhishmadev. In a very wonderful purport, like Prabhupada gives all the time, Grandfather Bhishmadev was beginning to instruct Yudhishthira Maharaj as to what his duties now as the new emperor of the world would be. And what does he begin to explain? He speaks about the 4 social divisions and 4 spiritual divisions within society. And in the very first line of that purport, Srila Prabhupada makes what I consider an astonishing statement, whereby he mentions, in reference to this first instruction given by Grandfather Bhishmadev. So Prabhupada says that this understanding and this taking up or following this social arrangement, which is based on what we call varna and asrama. It is meant to accelerate, you have to hear this clearly, it is meant to, Prabhupada uses the word accelerate, it is meant to accelerate the development of our spiritual qualities. In many places and in various conversations, Srila Prabhupada makes that connection, which we probably generally don't think about so much, that connection between how we live, where we live, what we do, connected with how this will affect our spiritual development or spiritual growth. So, within our ISKCON society, there are so many aspects, so many different projects, so many different ways that we can be engaged. Srila Prabhupada, especially connected with our city temples, where the main activities are, of course, worshiping the Lord, book distribution, chanting the holy name, developing congregation. But we are less in general, but that's important also to add within our city temples, to add this whole dimension that Grandfather Bhishmadev was referring to, that Narada Muni also refers to in his discussion with Yudhishthira Maharaj. And this has to do with what Prabhupada refers to as 50% of his unfulfilled mission. And initially, for probably most devotees, either full-time living in the temple or hopefully full-time living outside the temple, because we're meant to be full-time either in or outside the temple, means we are meant to be fully committed, isn't it? The whole purpose of life is to become committed to the primary goal and purpose of life, as it is explained again and again throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. But most of us are less familiar with or thinking much less about this whole aspect that Prabhupada spoke about in terms of 50% of his mission. And this is meant to take place especially where it is meant to be taken up, it is meant to happen outside of our cities, in villages. If our city temples are not connected with village preaching, then our city temples are not fulfilling the mission of life or the mission of our acharyas. Because what is our primary goal? One of the primary objectives of the Krishna consciousness movement is to revive, re-establish Vedic culture, isn't it? So Vedic culture, what are the symptoms of the Vedic culture? How can we understand that we're actually following Vedic culture? What are some of the essential components of the Vedic culture? Of course, chanting Hare Krishna is part of it. Worshipping the Lord, engage in various kind of activities, as I mentioned, given to us by Srila Prabhupada, the holy name, book distribution. But Vedic culture is intimately and directly connected with things that very often in cities we forget about because we are disconnected. And the two things, especially that we are disconnected with in cities, unless we really are, reading closely what is explained in the Bhagavatam, we are disconnected largely with cows and with land. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about this, the whole Bhagavatam also. emphasizes how Vedic culture is actually founded or based on these activities connected with cows and land. And it is very much the duty and the responsibility of those devotees who happen to be in the cities, who are connected with our temples, to see, well, what is meant to be our connection? What can we do to actually help revive that Vedic culture? Vedic culture is not simply in a temple. That's only one portion. The major portion of our lives, the major portion of our activities, and our duties or occupations or prescribed duties, especially as householders, and the majority of people are householders, is meant to be. If we read carefully the 7th canto, Narada Muni explains that actually, and Prabhupada actually in the purport explains how the vast majority of our householders, their occupation, their activities is meant to be connected with agriculture. We are extremely, we've become very, very far removed from this basic understanding. And that is very dangerous. That is dangerous actually because we are not properly understanding what is actually dharma. We're not understanding what is actually the mission of our founder Acharya. And if we are not able to properly understand or fulfill that mission, then it means that our own spiritual advancement will be affected in one way or another. So there is a very urgent need, it was there during Prabhupada's time as well, for our devotees to understand this whole aspect or dimension of what is Vedic culture, in particular, how we as a society, how we as individuals within the society are meant to be involved in cow protection, how we are meant to be involved in growing our own food, living this more simple, natural lifestyle. So unless there is an effort that is made, and actually I don't know the situation here for your temple, but many of our temples are generally not so much connected or involved in this way. But that is one of the important purposes of the Krishna consciousness movement, to awaken this awareness or this consciousness. Srila Prabhupada gave many, many important instructions in this respect, and there's a book which is summarizing all of these main instructions, we could say, given by Srila Prabhupada, and it is a book entitled Speaking About Varnashrama. How many here have a copy of this book? My God. Okay, 3, 4, 5. How many have not heard about this book? Majority. Okay. Anyway, that's one of the main purposes we have come this morning, to bring some awareness to this very important book, which is opening this whole aspect that Prabhupada, even in the last days in Vrindavan, where Prabhupada was in his room, could hardly speak, he actually explained, and you can, it's recorded, yeah, that especially in modern day society, the modes of passion and ignorance are extremely strong, and especially in our modern cities. So unless we learn to rise from these lower modes of nature to the mode of goodness, then we will not be able to properly execute our Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada made the point that in order to rise to the mode of goodness and to become steadily fixed in that mode of goodness, then it is necessary to revive the system of Varna and Ashrama. It's a major topic, obviously, because it's 50%, as Prabhupada described, of his mission. And my humble request is that devotees, especially those who are in leadership position in our temples, give serious attention to this most important instruction, many instructions actually, in relation to this, given by our founder, Acharya. And this can only happen, especially when devotees take the time, because part of the responsibility of those devotees in our city temples is to actually go in the villages. There should be a department actually in every city temple, a village department, where at least some devotees on a regular basis go to the villages to understand this essential aspect of our Vedic culture. Vedic culture cannot be revived properly unless we know the importance of village life as it is demonstrated, isn't it, in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is our model. Krishna and Balaram and their activities in Vrindavan, that is meant to be our model of how we should be living. Of course, Bhagavatam classes are, there's limited time, but I think we have some of these books here somewhere, or not? Hare Krishna. Sripati Prabhu is gone. Are these books here? Hare Krishna. They're there? This book especially is supposed to be here. Okay, we'll take 2 minutes for any questions. Any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhuji.
You wrote that book?
Huh?
You wrote?
No. This was commissioned actually by the GBC. Way back in 1996, when 1996 was an important year, Prabhupada's centennial, right? And the GBC had requested a committee. They made a committee of researchers, devotees, to research the topic of community development. And they came out with this book, which is 100% different quotes from Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. If you've not read, well, most of you have not, try to get a copy of this book, and I strongly suggest that devotees, maybe once a week, some devotees can read and discuss and try to understand what is still the 50% of Prabhupada's mission. Yes. Anyone have? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisance at your lotus feet. Maharaj, actually, even though we insist on the Varnashrama, but some places it's mentioned like Varnashrama comes under the part of material aspect. How to understand?
Varnashrama comes under?
Material aspect.
Yeah, Varnashrama is the material arrangement that Krishna has created. When properly understood and properly practiced, that so-called material arrangement becomes spiritualized, just like that is why we speak about Daiva Varnashrama. So it is not that Varnashrama is like karma kanda activity. Every day we cook. Are we going to stop cooking because food is material? Are we going to stop eating because food is material? No. We cook it in a particular mood and mentality. We offer it to the Lord. So, Daiva Varnashrama is that system, material system, when the focus is on Krishna, that whole system becomes spiritualized, isn't it? In Kali Yuga, our intelligence is somewhat less, and we tend to be somewhat lazy as well. There's so many bad aspects or disqualifications that we have in Kali Yuga, but at least the main qualification we should try to develop is to hear more closely and more regularly from Shastra, so that we can begin to understand to some extent or other what is being conveyed or what is being given by our acharyas. So when especially our founder acharya, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, gives so much of importance and very elaborately speaks on the subject matter, then it is part of our obligation and responsibility to hear so that we can actually begin to understand. And if we don't, then we are failing in executing the mission of our founder Acharya. It's that simple. We are not taking up this 50% of the mission. How we can expect the mission to succeed? Isn't it? We're not taking the trouble to try and understand what is our founder Acharya trying to convey to us. That means we are failing. That means don't expect to go back home, back to Godhead, if you cannot fulfill the mission of our founder Acharya. It's that simple. And it is especially the duty and responsibility, because the majority of our devotees are in city temples. But they are disconnected actually with this 50% of Prabhupada's mission, and that is most unfortunate. So humble request is devotees, that is, what is the perfection of a disciple? Is to understand and put into practice, isn't it, the instructions given by the founder Acharya or by the spiritual master. So I think some of the books, Srila Prabhupada is not here, may be in the back there. The devotees can have a look at it. Our time is up. Thank you very much. Jai Grantaraj Bhagavatam Ki Jai.